Welcome back once again, you horrible lot. It's Sunday. Don't normally do a Sunday video, don't normally do a Saturday video, but you've got both of those this weekend. I guess I just have motivation to do stuff currently, even if today's video is, if anything, somewhat demotivational, kind of. We're gonna discuss some alternatives to what we're about to see, right after I give you the classic yearly Games Workshop announced price rise information. Because of course. So, quick note on prices. From the 6th of October 2025, some prices in Warhammer stores and on the website will be changing. On average, they will rise by about 4%, but the exact amount will vary by product. Some will change a little more, some a little less. So you've got a rough guideline there, but not enough to be fully useful. I know, it's still useful, that's not fair. The prices of many products, including paint, sprays and paint sets, aren't changing at all. That's something, I guess. Sharing this now, so you've got time to make any purchases you've been planning at today's prices. So, as is tradition, we've got the yearly price rise and we've got the thing of get in there quick before they go up, because otherwise you're going to be paying more than you were before. This, of course, doesn't include things like stealth price rises, where things like kill team boxes slowly go up in price unannounced. So, like the big box, I believe that's 155 quid, I think it was, from Element, or was it from Games Workshop? Either way, more expensive than the last one, but not really labelled as such. Now, the tradition when we do these videos, outside of just letting you know, is to bemoan the state of things and essentially say that they didn't necessarily have to do this. As always, whenever these announcements are made, there are plenty of people that I see who declare themselves as being priced out of the hobby. And admittedly, with some, it is a case of a gut reaction of, well, that's it, I'm out, but then finding that they're able to continue, or are, in the end, it turns out, happy to absorb that price rise. But increasingly, that's not happening, and people are being priced out. Now, the thing is, Warhammer is still growing regardless of these price rises, so for the people being priced out, they seem to be being replaced by people who still have the level of expendable income to be able to just, keep buying stuff. This time round, rather than just whinge about it, because that's not actually all that helpful, we're going to talk alternatives, right? Because I think sometimes it's easy to forget the sheer weight of Games Workshop, and I guess just Warhammer, the marketing weight that they have, the amount of promotion that you see from them. Anytime any box is released, 1,001 influencers have got a free copy of it. You can tell when it's release day, because Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, YouTube, absolutely flooded top to bottom with people going, look at this box, look what you can get. And as such, it can often feel like there's not really anything in the way of alternatives. And of course, when it comes to your local gaming groups, it can be difficult to sway people into playing alternatives. If you're just someone who plays on the kitchen table, which I am for the most part, although it's mostly AOS, not 40k these days, it's a bit easier to try and shift people over. But the fact is, there are other things out there, and even if you want to continue playing 40k, there are alternatives to buying very, very expensive plastic. Now, of course, one of them, 3D printing. I wouldn't say I'm a 3D printing evangelist, because it is a hobby in and of its own, and depending on your living situation, there are limitations as to how you can actually, own and operate a 3D printer. It's not a be-all, end-all solution. You are still having to deal with chemicals, you've still got to deal with the clear-up, stuff like that, but if you're in a position where you're able to have a printer, whilst also staying safe in terms of keeping things like fumes away from you, it is a good investment to have if you love miniatures. I mean, I've had quite a few over the years, some sent free, some bought. The one that I currently have is the Reflex RS. It's an expensive printer, 100%, but I also don't have to do any of the calibration or leveling, or, really I don't have to do anything. I just tell it to print things and it does, which for me is absolutely perfect, because the main things I dislike about 3D printing are all of the setup, all of the calibration stuff, and all of the trial and error, which is a real shame, because traditionally, those are all things that you've just got to suck it up and deal with. The fact is, though, if you have the money, if you have the space, and if you're willing to learn, it is an excellent alternative to buying plastic miniatures. The fact is, you can find something that you like, you can set your printer going, and before the end of the day, you can have the thing that you want. The quality from most 3D printers now is absolutely fantastic, and you will rarely find anything that looks 3D printed unless something has gone wrong in terms of calibration or resin settings. It's something worth looking into if you feel that you buy enough miniatures that having that initial outlay of, a couple of £100, because some of them are very cheap now, that is a viable alternative, for sure. And whilst I'm not going to recommend going out and finding exact one-to-one copies of Games Workshop sculpts, you can find things that are very similar to what Games Workshop sells. The fact is, there are a huge number of extremely talented creators out there, extremely talented small studios making STLs that very much are inspired by the Games Workshop style, whilst not being one-to-one rips or copies of their models. You can find stuff out there that will allow you a level of modularity that you do not get from Games Workshop kits anymore. And these are things done by individuals or small studios. They're not massive companies, they are actual members of the community contributing something to that community. It's 100% worth looking into if you have that space and if you have the drive or the wanting to learn how to do it. 3D printing is a viable alternative. It has been for a while, it especially is now. I would recommend checking out a few printers, looking at a few reviews if you have the space and if you have the drive to do something with that. The fact is, there's also a ton of other games that it's easy to forget about. War Machine is going through a second lease of life at this point, with Privateer Press and Steamforge coming to their sort of arrangement, their agreement, with Steamforge now producing and selling War Machine kits. That is now very, very accessible. There's a good number of two-player starters that are cheaper than a single combat patrol. There are things coming in actual plastic as opposed to printed resin, which is what a lot of the bigger and more varied boxes have. That is a game that, if you were going to get into it, feels like now is a decent time to have a look. It's very well supported, and there's a couple of videos on the way for the channel, not paid for, where I take a look at some of the miniatures that they've got going, and yeah, I mean, if ever there was a time to check it out, it feels like this might be it. Things like, if you're more of a fantasy person, things like Frostgrave, Stargrave as well. One Page Rules has got a ton of different settings that you can use. A lot simpler than 40k, but very much in the same spirit. Also, again, talking 3D printing, they have a whole range of miniatures to use with their system, which are kind of analogues to things that you will find in 40k/AOS. The fact is, there's tons of alternatives out there. There's loads. We haven't even mentioned Trench Crusade, for God's sake. The miniatures are fantastic and can be bought either in physical or digital form to print yourself, so again, that barrier to entry is a lot lower. Also, it being a skirmish-based game, you simply don't have as much outlay for building a full army. Trench Crusade has actually weirdly reminded me of another kind of alternate reality/alternate history game, Conflict 47, which is a Warlord Games product. So that is 1947, except there's been a weird rift discovered and all sorts of mad technologies being created. So you've got cool walking tanks, you've got crazy energy weapons, but you've still got a historic basis for the unit. It looks incredibly fun. If you still want to buy 40k or AOS stuff, then you don't even have to write off Games Workshop and Warhammer as a whole. Look at second-hand markets. Don't buy things new. Don't buy things, even at a discount from third-party retailers, it's still hellish expensive, right? The fact is, if you go onto eBay at the right time and you keep your eye out, you will most likely find the model you want and you'll be able to get it a bit cheaper than it would otherwise be. I've got a box of 2 knights down there. The tall Castigator style ones. I paid 130 quid for that box. 130 quid is basically the cost of an Imperial Knight, and there's 2 in there. You can find those deals. You have to look, you have to be patient, but you can absolutely find them. Something that Games Workshop does very well is to reinforce the idea that the hobby means Warhammer. The hobby doesn't mean Warhammer. Warhammer means Warhammer. The hobby means miniatures. The hobby means tabletop gaming. Whether it's wargaming, I would even say down to things like TTRPGs. There is a vast umbrella under which we like to put some miniatures on the table and have a good time. Warhammer is one facet of that, yes, and it's the one that is most heavily represented on this channel, much though I am currently trying to change that a bit. But there are plenty of others. I've just glanced over there as I'm talking, and I've also seen God Tier. Excellent game. 2-player, very fast, very easy to learn. There's so much out there. There just is. There's a load of different things if you really want to look, and if you feel like you're being priced out, you don't have to give up everything. There are alternatives, there's new stuff to look at, and there's ways to continue playing if you don't want to pay the prices for Games Workshop plastic. Now, of course, some of that will require branching out into something maybe you're not familiar with, especially in the case of 3D printing. But if that's something that you feel comfortable with, it's something that is recommended for a reason. I mean, I can't remember the last time I bought a bunch of stuff for a Games Workshop army, just flat out brand new, without also printing some stuff. I think those tanks up there, that's it. That's the last time I've really just built something out of Games Workshop only stuff. Even my stupid Mega Gargants, the latest versions of them are still being built, and they're not being built with just Games Workshop stuff. There is 3D printed stuff going on them as well, because it's one of those things that has become so easy to use, so accessible, and an excellent supplement, or, if you want it to be, an excellent replacement for that plastic. So, yeah, there are price rises. It's not great. If you want alternatives, though, if you want to keep gaming without necessarily spending that, there are alternatives to those. So, I mean, I guess it doesn't help you that much if you only like Games Workshop stuff. But if you only like Games Workshop stuff, then, I mean, that's totally fine. That's up to you. But there is a lot out there. There's a lot out there. And a lot of it is very much worth your time. Anyway, that ended up being very rambly. If you've got any suggestions for things that people should look into, then please do say in the comments down below. I've given a few examples. There are loads. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I really intended to just sort of go, here's what's happening, that's it. But I don't really want to do that anymore. I don't think it adds anything. Instead, I'd rather give you some ideas as to alternatives if you want them. If you don't, that's totally fine. I'm not saying jump ship immediately. You're your own person, make your own choices. But if you did want to, there's stuff out there to check out. So yeah, any recommendations, please put them in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you for the next one.